Good morning. Those who listen to my State of the State address know that this administration is working hard to set the stage for unprecedented economic expansion and job growth in our state. Iowa needs to be open for business and poised to bring the kind of growth that brings greater economic opportunity to all Iowans. Iowa's farm families have helped lead our way in boosting our production and Iowa's economy. And having been governor during the farm crisis of the 80s, I can tell you how much different it is now with the strength of agriculture and the way that agriculture is playing such an important role in growing our economy and bringing other jobs to the state as well. Throughout our history, we've known that farm families embody the hard work and values that define what it means to be an Iowan. Both the Lieutenant Governor and I grew up on family farms. It hasn't been easy to be a farmer. Farmers face significant hurdles, weather, fluctuating markets, and burdensome regulations. Farmers know the costs of every hour that's lost and every dollar that is misspent. Farmers cannot afford unnecessary regulations. Today, I am formally objecting to a rule by the Electrical Examining Board that has gone beyond their statutory authority. This rule requires a state inspection for any electrical work on farm buildings or structures, even though the legislature provided a common sense exception for farmers in the law. This rule is unnecessary, it's costly, and it exceeds the authority of this board. This power grab by the Electrical Examining Board hurts hardworking Iowa farmers.
Good morning. As the governor has pointed out, these overreaching rules hurt economic opportunities in agriculture and job growth in Iowa. Our administration is committed to regulatory reform. We know that the new policies that encourage job-friendly environment can take Iowa a significant way forward in our efforts to compete for new jobs. Much of that work can be undone by a bureaucracy that fails to understand the critical relationship between burdensome regulation and job creation. When adopting regulations to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the people of the state of Iowa, state agencies must follow the law. They should work to achieve statutory goals as effectively and efficiently as possible without imposing unnecessary burdens that reduce jobs and again hurt job growth. We know that small businesses, including farmers, are the greatest generators of job growth and are also disproportionately burdened by these very regulations. Today, we are surrounded by farmers from around the state who have safely conducted electrical work on their barns, their grain bins, and on outbuildings for years. They've hired experienced electrical contractors and licensed professionals who don't need the state looking over their shoulders. The Electrical Examining Board rule hasn't changed that. Farmers still have to have qualified people do their electrical work. But the rule has added another significant expense to farmers' projects and caused delays lasting days or even weeks, and they are especially costly when livestock are involved or during busy times of the crop year. At this point, I'd like to invite Colin Johnson, who is a crop and livestock farmer from Oppelo County, to speak briefly on behalf of farmers assembled here and others back home on their farm. Colin.
Thank you to the governor's staff for allowing us today to just talk on behalf of our own farm experiences and on agriculture, recognizing the issue of certainly a very unnecessary and financially burdensome issue that's appearing to farmers over the past years as we want to upgrade and add infrastructure to our farms. Speaking on behalf of a young farmer who certainly needs to grow their operation and provide for my family and add existing facilities and to simply grow, one of those things to do is build grain bins. As we provide for an ever-increasing need for food in this country and our yields expand in this great state of Iowa, we have to upgrade facilities constantly. One of those things involves electrical upgrades and so forth. To me, one of the things that we face in the future also is energy efficiency upgrades, especially grain bins, livestock facilities, and fans. a burdensome regulation such as this, where we have inspection fees of $500 per incident, it's a process that I don't necessarily want to budget in to the fact that I need to expand and grow my operation. With me today are some other farmers from around the state representing the area of Winterset, Woodward, Oskaloosa. John Frederickson is with me from Gowrie. John could give you personal experience on his operation of the fact that 5 years ago when we went to build grain bin facilities, the electrical contractor that we use, and I would mention that each one of us as farmers, most likely, and my cell phone amongst my family and friends, is my electrical contractor. He's a licensed individual that I don't necessarily need to have a second opinion on as far as how he does and conducts his business. I trust him. I trust them working on my farm. We're a growing farm. We have 2, 3 young children, more on the way. I'm certainly not going to do anything on my farm that's unsafe for myself or my children. We work around those operations every day. So an additional electrical inspection is not necessary. John, in his case, when he had his work done, he'd wait 2 additional days for the state inspector to come, do the inspection. We knew it would cost $500. And meanwhile, those trenches where those electrical lines and other things are laid, they're exposed. The electric contractor just can't cover them up because we have to leave them exposed for the inspector to come. There's 2 more days of lost work, especially during harvest time. As the Lieutenant Governor mentioned, these are burdensome on our time and on our labor. Secondly, when that person has to come back, the electric contractor comes back to bury those lines and finish up tightening those things. There's an additional cost on time involved with that. So I just want to reiterate that point that from a time standpoint, from a safety standpoint, Iowa farmers are doing the things right on our farms. So we appreciate the opportunity to speak on that issue. And as our farms grow and expand, we're going to continue to do these processes and make upgrades. And please allow us to do so without placing an unnecessary financial regulatory burden on us.
We're going to ask Jerry Bain, who's also a farmer and my neighbor up in Boone County, happens to be also a leader in the Senate, to share some remarks.
Well, I just want to remind everyone that last summer the Senate Republicans spearheaded a tour across Iowa for rural and regulatory relief. And I want to personally thank the governor and his administration for stepping forward and tackling a rule that is a burdensome regulation. And I just want to tell him thank you for all he's done, and I appreciate all they're working on. But again, this is a classic example of an unelected board going ahead and putting unnecessary regulations on Iowa businesses, and it really does create an impediment to growth. So thank you, Governor, and your staff.
This is a provision that's been in law for a long time. To my knowledge, it's not been used by the governor. It's been used, I think, by the Rules Review Committee. But the effect of filing this formal objection, which I'm going to sign in a couple of minutes, is it basically shifts the burden of proof from the farmer objecting to making the board responsible for proving that it had the authority. So it shifts the burden of proof, and we think clearly by the intent of the legislature, in the plain language they put making an exception for farmers, that they've exceeded their authority.